Welcome to ARINGO's Coffee Chat. Today, I have Sriram Emani, MBA alum from MIT Sloan. He is amazing. He's been with ARINGO for over 10 years, helping clients with writing their applications and really communicating their stories to these AdComs, specifically the M7. So we invited him here today to help share his experience and insight. Sriram, welcome.
Thank you very much, Jen. It's great to be here and to meet all of you. And I remember when I was applying, I looked at the M7 list and was like, those schools belong in a completely different world. And now on the other side, as both an alumnus and a consultant, I agree they are a different world. And I'm excited to share my experience on what goes on behind those doors.
Awesome. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm really so excited to finally be doing this after years of working together. We finally get to do our own thing. I'm
Yeah.
excited. So everyone, if you have questions today, please do use the chat function on the on our Zoom call today. So if you have questions, I'll be moderating that. If you need anything, I am here. But for the most part, Sriram and I are just going to chat about his experience and kind of dive in, give you kind of his perspective as an M7 alum and what that really means, and then kind of dive into the application and what they're looking for and to get any insights from him. So, Sriram, we're going to get started. So when people talk about M7 and they talk about how it's so elite, you know, what is it that you think is like so fantastic about it? And maybe you can even explain what it is, what schools it is, because maybe other people don't know what an M7 school is, and then tell us why it was so attractive to you.
So the biggest thing about the M7 schools,
पापा को तीनों कर ले ये रहे मेरी पापा को दे दे
sorry, okay.
Yeah, sorry.
That's fine. That's okay. So M7 refers to, of course, the most elite and historically prestigious MBA programs in the US. And you guys know the list. We can read it. It's Harvard, Stanford, Wharton, MIT, Kellogg, Columbia, and Chicago Booth. And essentially, it's the biggest thing for me was the density of talent and the doors that they open for you. If I can distinguish it, it's almost like you don't even have to introduce yourself after that anymore. Like before you enter the room, people know that you're from that school, and that already creates a certain aura or buzz about you. And I think that really, to me personally, has been a huge marker of credibility, value, peers who I can rely on, and doors that can be opened much after graduating. And I think in the actual classroom, so there's three elements to the M7 program, obviously. So there is the in-classroom experience where the density of talent is so high that you have people who are, on one hand, Olympic athletes. One of my classmates actually used to write songs for Beyonce. And then you had people coming in from standard like hedge funds and consulting. So just the diversity of perspective from some of the topmost decision makers in the industry, it's really rich and fascinating. And so that aids your learning in a way that just is not something I've seen anywhere else. Then, of course, the resources that are provided to you because of the history and the prestige that the school has. I remember when I got into MIT, I immediately got access to the MIT alumni network even before joining the school. And that summer before the program, I remember writing personal emails to 250 MIT alumni about people from the media, entertainment, and other industries that I was passionate about. And most of them almost replied, and they were happy to chat with me for like 20 minutes on the phone. So even before I started the program, I had access to like some of the topmost minds sharing insights with me. And that's incredible, just for anyone seeking a transformative experience. And finally, the alumni network after you graduate, and the doors that open for you as your classmates keep getting into higher and even higher positions, I think is incredibly valuable. So that, I'd say, is, in short, the value of the M7 experience.
Excellent. And I feel like I hear that from clients all the time of like, that's what they're looking for. So let's say that like maybe they're looking for the elite of the elite and they're like, oh, I want HSW, Harvard, Stanford, Wharton. And they're going to also apply to other schools. Let's say that they don't get into Harvard, but they get into MIT. Do you see people getting to interact with those other M7 schools? Like, is there interaction between them, and how have you seen that happen?
Absolutely, in many ways. So, if I can summarize, there's three ways. One is cross-registering for courses, especially schools that are in the same city. Second is through inter-school mixers, as they call them in the MBA situation. And the third would be in, off-campus events, either in recruiting or internationally, as these schools and their students go on spring breaks and like during the vacation. So I was at MIT and I cross-registered for a course at Harvard Business School called Creative High Impact Ventures, and people do that all the time. There's multiple courses you're open to register to. So that makes sure that if there is something about the other program that you really wanted, then you can get that experience. We often did joint mixers in our clubs where you get to interact and meet with people in different across schools. In my specific case, there is something called the MBA Media and Entertainment Conference that is co-organized by MIT Sloan, Duke, not Duke, sorry, my bad. Duke, MIT Sloan, Duke, NYU Stern, Columbia Business School, and Tuck. And so all five schools organize that together in New York every year. And so I actually led a panel and moderated it and got to interact with all of these other students. I remember Anita Alberse is a professor at Harvard Business School, and I wanted to kind of check in something with her about media entertainment. Wrote to her saying, I'm an MIT student. Would you give me some time? And she did. And so I think once you are in that elite tier, and that's not to say that they don't invite anybody else, but definitely the chances of you getting that access across these programs is very, very high. And I remember when I was applying, I also thought about a very limited set of schools from the M7 because by then Chicago Booth hadn't really gotten to the kind of rankings that it has now and so on. And so it's important to consider the fact that depending on the country or the community that you're coming from, certain schools might be more known than the others. That does not automatically mean the others are not that great. And it turns out for me, MIT Sloan was a perfect fit for my personality. And I really thrived there because it's a very student-run program. It's very like hands-on, action-oriented. It's kind of got the perfect mix between, the case study method and like on-ground, like action learning principles, a lot of which kind of like caters to my own learning style versus some of the other schools where the approach might be slightly different. And so, the school picks you ultimately. And I think in the M7, you cannot go wrong with any of them.
I have a lot of people that I talk to, right? Like every day I'm talking to somebody who's interested in MBAs. And one reason that they may leave like MIT off or because, they're like, oh, you have to be an engineer to go to MIT, or like people think you have to be in finance to go to Wharton. Tell me like, what's your experience with that? Do these schools really have these classical cookie cutters that they're looking for, or tell me what that looks like in the classroom?
Imagine how boring that world would be if you just had the same kind of people coming in. And I remember I had heard that about MIT too, but you really have to start, especially in this day and age of like information being so easily and freely available with like no checks in place. You really have to make sure you're doing your research, right? That is absolutely not true. Wharton specifically, I've had people who've really benefited from, being in other departments than finance. They're really looking to boost their entrepreneurship. They're looking to boost their data analytics divisions. They're looking to boost in so many ways. These are all extremely diverse programs. Like imagine at MIT, I had, like I said, my classmate who used to be a songwriter for Beyonce and other artists. And then she went on to do like a big, huge marketing and branding role at Anheuser-Busch. None of that is the traditional stereotype of MIT, but it's so true that these schools are incredibly diverse. And so that's a misconception if anyone has that.
Awesome. Okay, guys, remember that if you do have questions for Sriram, you have questions about MBA applications, anything, put that in the chat and we will have a Q&A at the end. One other thing that I wanted to kind of hit on is like you mentioned like this intercollegiate experience, and like I have a lot of people who are interested in sustainability, and one club I know that specifically is very prominent across all campuses is the Net
sustainable
impact.
net impact. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah. So every school almost has a sustainability chapter of some sort, some club.
yeah.
And then, like with Net Impact, like I know that they're a really large organization that people come together, they have like case studies. And so you really do get to interact with people from every different campus. And it's a really cool thing
Mhm.
to see how those interactions
There's
happen.
that's a lovely point actually. Net Impact has that. There's something called Seed, and then all of that plugs into Net Impact and other places like that. There's also something called the Siebel Scholars Program. So I was a Siebel Scholar at MIT, and so then they had a conference they invited us to where you met like people from all of the other schools where they offer the Siebel Scholars Program, and I believe it's probably DM7. And there's some of the other foundations now that are coming up that also sort of organize these things. So I think it is definitely true that you can stop thinking of like getting into only one specific ecosystem, and that if you are in this tier, then you have access in many ways if you're proactive to do like a lot with them.
Yeah. Awesome. All right, Sharon, we're going to switch gears and start
Sure.
thinking about things from a consulting perspective and helping candidates with their applications. So if you start thinking about the schools, M7, really all schools too, are they all created equally? And how do you adjust your strategy of approach of like which schools you're going to apply to? And then how do you tailor your application to them? Like, tell us what you've been doing with clients and how you've had success.
So I definitely first think about what the goals of the person are in terms of their long-term goals, short-term goals, and if that involves a certain kind of culture that they're going to thrive in. And we start from that and then really think about which schools seem to be the best options. So for example, if you are a person who's very action oriented and really are willing to take charge and kind of like lead things and so on, then MIT Sloan is great for you. If you are somebody who wants to be in Silicon Valley for some reason for your goals and things, and Stanford tends to be like a better choice. If you're someone who might benefit from being on the East Coast for something, then we might sort of go more toward a mix of that school. Kellogg tends to be more on the collaborative style of leadership, very like adventurous, like jump in, like bold, audacious, a lot of like marketing firepower that Kellogg definitely has. Both the Chicago schools actually do. And so I think, and then of course, Tuck has a big cohort culture. We're not going to talk about that today, but there's definitely each school does have like a little bit of a personality that sets it apart. And so the two things that I try to do is definitely get them to talk to a couple of people from each school. And oftentimes they'll come back and tell me, oh, I thought this school was so and so, but the person I spoke to just seemed to be very nice to talk to, and they're actually not what I expected them to be. And I got like a better vibe from that school versus this. And so I think I personally take both of those into account, like my own knowledge of like what the schools traditionally are and not about, but also what the client's personality tends to resonate most with, because it's not just about getting in, but it's also being able to thrive and really succeed in that environment. In my own case, I had an example I was going to give, and then I completely lost my train of thought. It'll come back to me. But I think that's the thing that I do in most cases. There's also the aspect of thinking through. Yeah, okay, it came back to me. A lot of times people think that, oh, if I want to get a tech job, MIT is better because it's kind of got more tech DNA or like, connections to those companies. But then you're also sort of like, everybody's thinking that and everyone's coming there. And so I was actually coming in with a media entertainment background and wanting to get into media entertainment. And so I was one of the few people on campus, who really was passionate about that, or like it was a smaller group compared to some of the other M7 programs. And so it was easier for me to sort of get on the radar of a lot of companies, get shortlisted for more companies and so on. So it is a delicate balance between how you want to stand out versus how many resources or how much support and handholding you need. And which is why our process tends to be so custom and tailored to the candidate and their profile rather than like a one size fits all kind of an approach that, any AI system can throw out at you. But it's really about understanding the person, the personality, their goals. Some people come in with like wanting to be based in a certain city a lot more if possible. Last year I had a client who was not applying to Wharton, and 2 years ago actually now, wow. And I strongly encourage them to get, apply in that, because they were very collaborative. All of, the things that I felt Wharton really likes in their background, everything was catered, got into Wharton and could not have been happier about it. So I think finding the right consultant who understands how both sides come together, your own internal personality and motivations versus like what the schools offer, each one, I think is the perfect balance to go with.
Okay, good. Okay, so we've talked a little bit about this, but like about school selection, but let's talk about what they're looking for and what you need to have on your resume for you to be able to make it into these M7 elite schools. Do you have to be a consultant? Do you have to be in investment banking already? Like, tell me, like, let's talk about the successes you've seen and kind of where their resumes have come from. And it's okay to share some of those really amazing. Okay, like I'm just going to take 2 seconds to brag about Sriram, because I had a client who started with us. This has been like 3 or 4 years now, but he came and like his resume was literally like maybe 2/3 of the page when we first met. It had like 2 entries in his college, and it was like that was all. And by time Sriram got done with it, it was an elaborate, resume that not only like advocated for who he was and what he wanted to do, but also got him admitted to MIT. And it was amazing. But not everybody has to come in with the perfect resume, so to say.
Yeah. Well, a lot of times answers like this kind of become very cookie cutter. So I want to sort of challenge the norm of how I answer this question. I would like all of the people listening to this to really think about, if they were on the admissions committees of these schools and they get like thousands and thousands of applications that they have to sort through, what would really make them pause about a candidate? And most often I ask my clients these, and like they have never thought about this. And then 2 minutes, if I force them to think about it, they give me the answer themselves. They're not looking for a lot of quantity, obviously. They're not looking for cookie cutter resumes. Oh my God, if I see yet another McKinsey consultant resume, I'm going to, do something to myself, because I came from management consulting and I didn't want to go into a school that just had like people like me. What's the point? And so it's about what makes you unique and how that stands out. And this is like said in many ways, but what does that actually mean, right? So let's take the example of my friend who was writing songs for Beyonce, for example, just completely something out there. If she tries to make her resume look like a McKinsey consultant, she's obviously going to fail. The value that she brings to the classroom is a very creative mindset. It comes from like a very fast-moving media entertainment industry where traditional strategies and mechanics have not been working. It's an industry undergoing significant transformation. She brings in the idea of like, how do you take something that is very human dependent and really work through building and scaling that environment. She comes with a very strong understanding of like marketing, branding, social media, and what that really can add value. So in the classroom, her role is not to figure out how to solve the accounting problem from like the accounting mechanics, or how to solve the tech product strategy problem from like the standard thing. She will come in and say, oh, what about if this happens in that space, right? So it's the uniqueness of the perspective that you bring. And what is it? Have you even paused to think what your unique perspective is? And when you think about that, you will automatically see that you will start using some of that language more. And so when I scan the resume in 20 seconds, which is what AdCom does, by the way, it'll pop, it'll keep popping, and then it'll stick in your mind. And then they will be like, oh, that's the person who comes at it from like a media sustainability angle. Oh, that's a person who does, social impact scaling models angle or something like that. So I think the schools are looking to fill the class. They are what we call class architects. The admissions committee's job is to build a classroom that is diverse, prestigious, accomplished, and nice, because you're spending two years with them. And so when they're looking for that, where do you fit into that puzzle? And are you able to convey that to them? And so, especially in the day and age of AI, I have to tell you, like, what we do becomes like, 100 times more important, because all resumes and all applications are currently looking the same. ChatGPT does not understand how to differentiate you, even though it claims to. It uses all kinds of buzzwords and jargon and kind of gives you this like very cookie cutter standard thing. So even more so than before, now when I see it, I can instantly tell and be like, okay, did you use ChatGPT for this? And they're like, yeah, I wasn't sure what to do. I'm like, I can tell. If I can tell, they can tell. And so that idea of very clearly showcasing what's the flavor or tagline that you bring to that school. Why has that been something that you've built over a time period from your childhood experiences, and then how can you actually add value to the classroom with that unique perspective? I think would be incredibly valuable, and that is what they're looking for, the distinctiveness that you can, bring to the class.
Yeah, I think we usually call it what, the hook? And I feel like it's like kind of like a gimmick to say like, oh, we need to develop your hook. But I mean, really, we need like a thread that helps connect who you are and what you've done to what you want to do and why this school is going to get you where you want to be. So I think that's really important. Like you said, like that, time and time again, you find these ways to make people stand out and connect what their experiences have been and tell their story. Okay, so the other thing that I wanted to kind of ask you is, do you think that all M7s are created equal? Like, is it this, like, how do you, like, when you're building a school list as a client, like, is it like, okay, like it's HSW or the M7? Or even like the T15, right? Like, tell me more about what your perspective is. And sorry about my dog. He's protecting us.
Yeah. I think the days of HSW are gone, personally, from what I'm seeing. I'm not seeing anyone come in and being like, I'm only going to do HSW. I'm like, how old are you? Like 55? It's not the trend anymore. There's more schools that are fresher, like, sexier, like there's doing like incredible things that I think are more interesting than just like the same standard like legacy approach. So I definitely am seeing more focus on the M7 overall. And then I do T15s to basically include, I get two types of clients, or we all get two types of clients, right? Like one who basically says, my risk profile is I have to get into a school this year. It's okay. I'm going to try for the best, but even if it's a little bit on the lower side, that's fine with me. So that's a very different school build out versus someone who says, you know what, I have time. It's okay. I'm not desperate. I only want to do one of the best. If not, I won't. So then it varies based off of that. But I think the schools are all different in the sense of, so we went to Japan and South Korea. Like I had created a 3-credit course at MIT Sloan on the business of creativity and led 25 of my classmates to Japan. And when we reached there, we met another group from Harvard, another group from Wharton that were also like in parallel doing visits to Japan over their, spring break. And it was very clear like what the DNA of each school is, and nothing is right or wrong here. It's just about the approach. For us, we had scheduled all of our meetings. So me and my team had reached out to all of these companies we wanted to visit and wrote to them, secured the meetings and the calendars and all of that stuff. And that's it. And it's the people we wanted to meet. Some of the other programs, they were probably meeting, for example, the Prime Minister of Japan. And we were not. And it was, the school had organized that particular meeting and no one had a direct connection, but they would just probably spend some time and come back. Now, if you're looking for something that's more on those lines where the school will organize something for you and you basically just want to sort of like take a chill pill and sort of go there, that's your choice. Or if you want to actually build a connection yourself and really put in the effort, then that's this school. And so that's how the M7 really differentiates itself in terms of the resources they offer, the kind of like class culture that they have, the number of students. Like at Sloan in my class, I knew everybody's names. And then there's like a huge class like Wharton where you cannot know everybody's names, but you will find enough people that you would want to kind of then bring into your fold. So these are all parameters you talk to your client about and how that matters to them before you sort of go in for it. I think that's the way you pick. I don't know if I'm answering that question, but broadly.
Yeah, no, I think that was fantastic. So then I kind of want to dive in just a little bit more. So like, obviously, like you don't have to fit this like classical opinion of what a school is. Like if I want finance, I have to go to Wharton or I have to go to Columbia, Booth, etc. But let's talk about those personalities that these schools do have. Like for one thing, like obviously, like I always think of like innovation when I think of MIT. But one thing, like whenever I first started in the MBA world, I didn't realize MIT was about impact, right? Like that, like you could go, like if you were really interested in making a difference, I always, classically thought of Stanford and Haas
No.
and I know, but like that's what I'm saying is like, tell me what these personalities are from your perspective of these schools and what they kind of have to give. And you kind of alluded to like Kellogg and things like that. So let's dive in really quickly and kind
I
of
think
share the
of
personalities.
Yeah, I think of MIT as passion is the word that comes to mind, and that like everyone who I met there, like I felt no pressure to apply to the standard management consulting or investment banking routes after while recruiting, because everyone comes in with like a passion. Nobody cares if you're getting into wealth management or consulting or whatever it is. In fact, the people who are getting into consulting will kind of give you this look and be like, yeah, I had to sell my soul, sorry, kind of a thing. It's almost apologizing. Versus in some of the other schools, it's not like that. It's like everyone's like, oh, who got into McKinsey this year? So passion is what distinguishes MIT in the sense of what problem are you trying to solve in the world, and that automatically then gets connected to impact. And that's what I'm seeing my classmates now actually start to do in the world as well. Stanford definitely has a huge angle of Silicon Valley, and the innovation thing there is a little bit more of like, how are you ahead of the curve in terms of the most groundbreaking technologies? Are you part of that? What's the next app you're building or the next technology you're building? There's a huge focus on that. Wharton has been shifting its focus a lot from the traditional finance to entrepreneurship. Finance will always be part of its DNA, so their offering will still be strong, but they now have a lot of like really interesting new opportunities for those who want to get into entrepreneurship compared to before. Columbia is a very New York heavy school, and they have this unique program called the Executives in Residence. So you can basically connect with actual professionals. Like Columbia's whole thing is you can actually continue connecting with anybody in the professional world in any industry because we are right in the middle of New York. And that's incredibly valuable. So they cater all of that they do to that thing, to that offering, so to say. Chicago Booth basically is lots of options. Like Booth literally has like all these crazy, unique, interesting electives, so you can craft your own path. And they just want you to be able to be someone who is not waiting to be told what to do, but is very clear about what they want to do. And so I encourage my clients to bring that clarity in the application itself. Kellogg, definitely marketing comes to mind in a very big way. I think they're going to do like an extensive job of trying to change that tagline because they're not only marketing, but they're so good in the marketing part of it compared to the other M7s that they have a little bit of that tag. Very adventurous. How do you jump into something that others might be hesitating to jump into? So that tends to be like the flavor of like what how you would align something to that. And there's more. Like this really is like it's very hard to just put like a stamp on a school like that kind of,
Right.
it's very hard to do that. Like it really is. Like for example, if I was to boil that down and take it for someone who is in tech, and if they say, oh, MIT is so much stronger in tech, like should I do that versus Columbia? But I would say, but if you are looking to be in a tech space where currently the most exciting startups in that space are in New York, you should do Columbia because tech recruits in both places. And if you're doing startups, then what does it matter if you're at MIT or there? You'll have more access and be able to do in-semester projects. You'll be able to have like an exec in residence who can mentor you. You can actually go and like do one of your thesis things with one of these startup companies, do like an in-semester volunteering project with them. There's so much you can do to start getting into that space already. So I think that's the advice I would give.
Excellent. Okay, so we're about to jump into Q&A because we've got a lot of questions queued up. But before we do that, want to talk about any advice you have for people that are wanting to apply to these programs, especially in the day of AI or the age of AI, I guess,
AI,
however you want to say it. Like, what are, closing thoughts on advice for people that are applying to M7 and what they should do?
If you're, especially for the M7 compared to the others, do not do your first draft with AI. It's going to take you many, many months and many hours with a consultant to invert that approach because it's going to lead you on the wrong path where you're going to basically sound just like anybody else. And you might get lucky. I don't know. There might be a few people who like are very good at the prompt engineering and very specific in doing all of that stuff. But without the exceptions like that, really lean into what really makes you unique. Just sit back and think about it first before you write any question or any essay whatsoever. What would your friends and family, if you're not in the room, what would they say about you? Oh, he is the that guy, or she is the that person. And really lean into that originality of yours. Think like a storyteller, and don't worry about the fanciness of the language or how complicated your sentences are and things like that, because it has to sound like you. If you're going to write something with AI and then you, for example, might be somebody who uses practically a lot when you say, or like, to be practical, blah, blah, blah. Or like, if I was speaking practically something, something, and your AI essay does not have that. And then in the interview, you're someone who's talking like this all the time. It's a jarring difference between what you are on paper and who we are talking to. And so at any step of the process, it does not help you. Where it might be able to help you in spell check and grammar, punctuation, things like that a little bit, and maybe some research if you really want to kind of like use for brainstorming. So we're not saying like this is like we hate AI kind of a thing, but don't do your drafts with AI. Like do other stuff around it if you really have to.
Yeah.
The second thing is be very careful about where you're getting your information online about the schools. We have to spend usually like a lot of time initially like unlearning some of that with our clients, because especially people who are in like, I don't know, like last year I had a few clients from India who had like all these notions about some of these schools, and like, who's been telling you all of this? Like, this is so incorrect. And so the source of information really matters. And when in doubt, reach out on LinkedIn to like some of the alumni of that school or current students, and many of them are actually very happy to talk to you about it. So that's one advice. And the third and final piece of advice is, if you already have set your mind to it, just getting your tests done sooner than later. I think it just like helps so much, because a lot of the times it's like, oh, I'm going to take it like in like, I don't know, August, 1 week before the application deadline. And then you're just trying to navigate both. And I'm just like, why would you do this to yourself? Like, just give yourself enough time and get that out of the way is my.
Yeah. I mean, like literally 2 years ago, I had a client who waited until August.
Yeah.
And he had like a stomach bug and
Yeah.
could not finish his exam.
Yeah.
And so like we had to push to round 2 because like getting the reschedule and all this stuff, like because he didn't have the GMAT or the GRE done. And it was like, why did you leave it until then? Like
Till the last minute. Yeah.
you're in crisis.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to take it from the top and start answering or bringing out questions that we've had over the course of the chat. But again, if anybody has any other questions, please do put them there for us. This will be recorded. I'll send out the link after we get everything uploaded to YouTube. If you have any questions, you'll have my contact information, and we can always answer questions offline as well. Okay, so we have Sorvari, who says, where to do a self QC after writing essays, and how do you know that it will work, even if after iterations you seek advice how to go about it? So I think that this person is kind of saying, like, if I'm writing my application, who can help me with, making sure that I'm writing the right things, and like, how do you seek advice? I know it's like this shameless plug, like
Yeah, like you're at the right place.
ARINGO.
Well, okay, so let me answer this in 3 tiers. Like, obviously, the top one is an experienced network like ARINGO, obviously, because it's not just me or Jen. It's a whole network of consultants who are all alumni of all the top programs with access to admissions directors and all of them. So the advice you're getting is multi-layered, honest, authentic, and verified. If you want to do a self QC, that term self QC is what's kind of throwing me off a little bit. Like, you need some external perspective for your QC. The self part of it will basically have the same biases that are informing you as you write. So you do need either like friends who've been to these schools before and they can give you some advice potentially. I know Aringo offers not just like full school packages, but also hourly packages and just like test drives, which is just like a quick QC basically before you
Yeah.
submit, and they'll give you a bunch of feedback. So at different tiers of affordability and all of that. And then as you seek advice from people who are, so for example, once one of my clients who wanted to get into social impact got some advice from some school from someone going into finance. And I was like, those are so opposite worlds and industries that why would you, how does that apply? So it has to be people who first of all know what they're talking about, and secondly are aligned with your goals and your story and who you want to be. So I don't know if that answers the question, but hopefully.
Yeah, I think that should help. Okay, Smirti has a question about when building the application narrative, should my long-term goal be logical, safe extension of my past career, or do M7 schools prefer to see massive, highly ambitious visions?
Uh, they definitely want to see highly ambitious visions that will basically think about it as they would be proud to call you their alumna or alumnus 20 years from now. So it has to be that. But that doesn't mean that if right now you are in, I don't know, like again, music. If you're a musician right now and you say, I'm going to become CEO of Google, it doesn't really gel. So it has to be an ambitious vision that is an extension of what your skills are and what you can do. You can consider pivoting, of course, but I would say if you think of your job, you are in an industry, in a function. So you might be in pharma, in marketing. So you can change one of those in your pivot for it to still be meaningful. So you can say, I'll go from pharma marketing to tech marketing, or I'll go from pharma product to pharma strategy. So change one, not both, if you need to pivot. But they definitely want to see ambitious visions for sure with the long term goal, because why would you spend so much money, 2 years of your life, and do all of this work if you just want to do something you can do after a few years anyway?
Yeah, perfect. Okay, next question was from Nicole, and I think I can answer this one. So, do you have advice on how to reach out to current students, just cold messaging them on LinkedIn, or are there other ways? So, what I usually tell students is the best way to connect with anybody is to create some sort of shared connection of, oh, you are in finance and I'm in finance, or I want to be in finance. So, you reach out to somebody from the finance club at specific schools that you're most interested in, and they're more likely to respond than somebody who randomly contacts them on LinkedIn and says like, hey, I see you go to this school, because likely if they're at an M7, even like a T15, even almost any MBA program, they have tons of messages from people saying, help me get into your school. So any other advice besides that?
Yeah, just quickly adding on to that, that's probably one of the places where you can potentially use ChatGPT if you want. You can put the profile of the person and say, find like similarities between me and them or something I can use as a hook. And so send something interesting beyond just, hey, I'm applying to this so and so school. Can I talk to you for 15 minutes? Versus, I saw that like you ended up doing a project on animation for the Boston Metro, and I'm really interested in pursuing media entertainment at your school. Like, can I get like some advice? Just 10 minutes. I'll come prepared with specific questions, and I won't take more of your time, and I'm flexible. Like, just make it as easy as possible for them because they're all incredibly busy, as you can imagine. So, yeah.
Awesome. I also have an entire video on making these connections. It's like one of my personal favorite things to talk about all the time. Okay, so Gabriella says, for someone who has a relatively clear interest in fields like finance or technology, why pursue an MBA instead of a more specialized master's, such as an MSc in finance? And what do you see as the main long-term advantage of a broader MBA path?
Yeah. So the MBA is specifically curated for those who are looking at a more holistic understanding and expertise development in management. So I have actually done and advised and worked with some candidates for MSc in finance and masters in finance across the years, and they are looking to specialize a little bit more in that space, but they don't really care about understanding marketing strategy for the firm or how to run the firm in future from like all of these other departments. And the value of the MBA really is to understand the organization as a whole and know how each of these departments comes in, like what as a CEO potentially in future or CTO who needs a broader understanding than just their subject matter in the C-suite. You would definitely do that. Also, I would say if you already coming in have a lot of heavy expertise in finance, then any advanced degree, you'll only just get marginal benefit if you're just basically doing the same thing at a higher level. Versus if you go to an MBA, you're actually learning a whole bunch of different things. Now, the opposite of that is if you already have some generalist experience in, I don't know, operations or marketing and this and that, and then you want to specifically focus on a thing like finance, then you would go into MSc in finance because you don't have that specific experience. I hope that makes sense, that you'd balance out
Yeah.
what you already have with what you want.
Yeah, and I think it really depends on how you want your career to go. If you're going upward and funneling into like, I want to be a CTO, then doing a master's in technology or something similar to that would be a good idea. Whereas the MBA is going to be so much more broad and give you the ability to manage all these different departments. Okay, so next question is, thank you for your time. Which of the M7s do you think would be a good fit for someone from a brand marketing background seeking to go into strategy consulting?
Well, this needs a bit more of a deep dive. It's hard to just
Yeah.
like answer that from a question, because when you say which of the M7s, like it's a very specific thing. And it's one of the things that we do once kind of jump in and we spend some time with you. But I would say if you're going into strategy consulting and tech, like most of the M7s have very strong recruiting in both of those. So I think it's a function of like, if you go into any of those programs, you will most likely be able to recruit in strategy consulting and tech. I think it's more a function of which of these programs would you be able to fit into the best and contribute the best. And so which ones will take you? I think it's probably a bigger one because your goals seem to be pretty broad anyway in terms of the industry you want to get into.
And I mean, I'm just going to interject
Yeah.
here and kind of, we have a lot of people that come and they're like, have this preconceived notion of like, I have to go into consulting because this is the most prominent employment of an MBA, is that I'm going to like that they hire consultants. And so I'm going to pitch that I want to be a consultant, but I have no idea why.
Mhm.
What do you say when somebody like kind of comes with this, like, I guess like a straw man goal of, I want to go into consulting, and you're like, but why?
Well, I think I usually prefer, that's the reason I prefer starting with the long term goal first. Like I always say, like, tell me what's a North Star guiding your whole life. Tell me what is a problem that you're most passionate about solving first. And then we can figure out if consulting really fits into that. And there are some clients where I'm like, okay, great. If that's your long term goal, it makes sense to get into strategy consulting so you can join a specific practice area, develop like your expertise across these different tiers of like big industries and like people and case studies, and then jump in the midterm to one of those specialized positions and then ultimately get there. But by itself, if you simply tell me, oh, after the MBA I want to do strategy consulting, I'm like, yeah, that's not going to cut it.
Perfect. Okay, so the next question is kind of funny. What school would you say is a good fit for a marketing, film, and theater background?
Oh, you're talking my language. Yeah, that was well. So theater back. So there's three components in there. Marketing, definitely Kellogg. I think is like great for it. MIT actually does some really amazing marketing courses too. Columbia definitely has a bunch. Film is an interesting one because Harvard, Stanford have the most strategy related connections in film and entertainment. Columbia and NYU Stern, actually, which is, also an interesting school, will probably have more of like the traditional recruiting in these spaces. MIT Sloan has the most innovation and tech angle of that, like the Sloan Sports Analytics Conference or the Arts Hackathon. And Kellogg will have more of the marketing. I already mentioned Kellogg, but like we'll have more of that. So, and then UCLA and USC, which are not on this list of M7,
Yeah.
but they are the ones based in Los Angeles in those spaces. So, what do you want to do in these spaces after? Like, this is your background, great, but what about the goals? Like, what do you want to continue in these after you go, or do you want to get out of them? I think it depends upon that.
Okay, awesome. Okay, so we talked a lot about how schools are not only looking for traditional profiles like management consultants, and that differentiation is really important. For candidates who do come from more traditional backgrounds, what do you think is most important in the way they tell their story or position their experience to stand out?
As long as I can see that you weren't doing these jobs just because you had no other choice. I think that's the number one thing. Like if you're just telling me, oh, I did this and then I did this, I'm like, yeah, because maybe that's all that was available in your city or in your industry. Like in India, a lot of people go into IT because traditionally that industry has been doing well and like a lot of jobs are in IT. So if it just looks like, yeah, I went there because that's the job I got, then that's not a way to position yourself. But if you can tell me that, like, since I was young, I was the kid who used to break apart my transistor or computer to really try to look into what happens. I was so passionate. I did these projects in high school, and like I have my family background in like this kind of a business or whatever, and I'm so passionate. I'm seeing this industry go toward AI. I don't know, I'm just making stuff up. It's going toward this particular thing. That's only going to benefit a certain higher echelon of society. But I am passionate about democratizing access to that for the masses or for like these people who really need it. If that's the kind of story you're telling me, then yes, then I will believe that's a way to stand out.
Awesome. Okay, so next one is from Himadri. Thanks for the session. Sriram, I have one question for you. How did your education at MIT Sloan as a management person help you evolve as a creative filmmaker? Also, when can we get to see a movie like The Cell from Tarasim Singh from you?
That's such an interesting question. I haven't seen the cell actually. I think I'm going to add that to my list because I'm currently developing a feature script, so a lot of references are helpful. So I will look at that. It's been an interesting long journey. So I was always growing up passionate about media entertainment in many ways, and then that reflects in my profile. And then I joined Sloan with a management consulting and performing arts management background, and then I became the co-president of the Media Entertainment Club there, and I led visits to New York and Los Angeles to meet with all of the leading companies in media entertainment and got to know them really well. I moderated a panel at the MBA Media Entertainment Conference that Sloan co-hosts. I was one of the founding people behind the MIT Arts Hackathon, got the MIT Media Arts award to start my company, Indian Raga, and ran that company, started that while I was at Sloan and really understood, took this class at Harvard Business School, Creative High Impact Ventures, and really focused. And then I did media ventures and development ventures at the MIT Media Lab. And basically I was the performing arts, media, entertainment guy at Sloan. I interned with the president of Lincoln Center. Then I interned with the global head of digital business at Sony Music. Then I was a consultant with Disney Theatrical Group over the summer to help them take Broadway musicals to India. That same summer, I founded my company, Indian Raga, did that there. So I've been at it. Like I basically did everything possible to related to this field. And I started producing my movies, and one of them is on the festival circuit right now. It's a short film, but I will be doing more as we go. So I'm working on that.
Awesome. Okay, two questions for you. One of them, and I'm going to make this a little bit more generic, Aditya, but one is like, as an overrepresented candidate, how do you stand out for merit scholarship for like an M7 school? And I know a lot of your clients get scholarship. What is it that you feel like you're able to kind of pull out for them? And then, answer that question first, because this one's
So
different.
merit scholarship will have two angles. One is how much leverage you have in terms of like, do you have like multiple offers and are schools sort of like trying to kind of like fight for you? So I had a client, for example, who got both into Sloan and into Ross, Michigan, and a bunch of other places, but these two schools primarily. And the minute he got the Sloan offer. Like Ross Michigan actually offered a $100,000 scholarship. It's another funny thing that I still told him to go to Sloan, and then he came to Sloan. He was very happy with it because I'm like, you'll make that 100K in no time. So I don't think that's been a problem at all. The second thing is, what are you showcasing about your goals that would make it great for them to give you a scholarship? So, for example, if you're going to be doing something after which involves setting up a company or benefiting something in the social impact space as part of your goals, and you're clearly like, this person is going to need that support to be able to jump right into their goals and accelerate their career, that would be great. I would still say that's a secondary consideration. I think the first one is more about how valuable you are to the school compared to all of the other people who've gotten in. How unique is your background? Like if you're tech guy from an IT background, well, unfortunately, it's not going to be enough to make you stand out. So it really then depends upon the goals. So I hope that covers it, those 3 points.
Yeah, awesome. And then Aditya, you had another question about programs and your background. I'd love to talk with you offline about it. And so just reach out after we get off the call. So next question, should one be focusing on targeting a school where more of the alumni from their undergrad school have been to? And does it help in any long-term networking?
No, I would actually say the other way around. If you already have that network from your undergrad, why would you repeat that in your business school? And I don't think that helps you at all because MBA programs are it's so funny. Like I was the only guy who flew in all the way from Mumbai for the Sloan admit weekend. And then I came there and then happened to just mentor to somebody who I met at 9 o'clock in the morning when it opened. One of the second year students was hosting it about what I do. And within 20 minutes, she brought 3 other people who are also potential like candidate admits saying, okay, here's a person who wrote something for Beyonce. Here's a person who was, doing something in the music studio space. And here's someone who is doing whatever. The MBA is nothing if not networking. So you will be able to do it without needing any help from your undergrad people at all. So I don't think that's a consideration, in my opinion.
Got it. Okay. Do we have to be very specific about what we are seeking out of the MBA? What will our course of action be right after we finish the MBA? Or can we be more open to finding our way through the MBA? Which one is better? And this person, Aditi, has a North Star, a long-term goal, but doesn't exactly know what the short-term goal is to get there.
Yeah, no, the short term goal has to be the most specific, clearly achievable, and something that the school can help you find ideally or knows that you can, because the schools really rely on statistics. And if you are someone who's going to threaten their statistics of the 100% people got placed, or like our candidate's salary was so and so high, blah, 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 then that's not a good sign, especially in this highly volatile situation where we don't know if there's a recession, we don't know how many jobs are going to be taken by AI. So they don't want you sort of like languishing around like without a job after or lack of clarity. So the short-term goal, unfortunately, has to be. In fact, the long-term goal. Actually, I'm really impressed that you have a North Star, which I think is amazing, and I wish more of my clients had that. But I would still say having a slightly ambiguous not long-term goal is still okay, but the short-term goal is absolutely has to be like they have to see you get that, because a bunch of the traditional recruiting industries, they come in for the internship recruitment in less than a month of you joining the program. So the treadmill starts as soon as you join, and it's a very fast-paced program. So like, where is the time to sit and keep finding your way through it? Like you can do that ultimately once you either get your internship or once you get your thing out of the way. You should definitely explore. But no, the MBA, the M7s especially, like you're really competing with people who have a lot of clarity, and so it's important to have clarity.
Yeah, and I would say maybe Stanford would be the only school I feel like you could really have a pronounced passion, I would say, without a true, like, this has to be my short term. You could be a little bit ambiguous about it just because they're so focused on what matters most. I mean, obviously, they still want to see how you're going to be employed, but maybe
Still,
like Stanford is a little less concerned about somebody getting employed afterwards.
but they still ask you for a specific
Yeah.
industry of choice after, and the position that you look to recruit in, and so on. So yes and no.
Yeah.
But I agree. I agree with you that, like, even MIT for that matter doesn't really say that they emphasize on goals, but think of goals also as a way of showcasing that someone has clarity on their path. So
Right.
even if your actual thing doesn't fit in that same way of saying this is my short-term goal or something, I think being able to have that clarity is something they look for, because they're comparing you constantly with other people. So even if their DNA says what you're saying, just to be on the safer side, I advise my clients to be very specific.
Yeah. So I would say that the other part of this is that now, because the economy and everything is going on geopolitically, that you still want the committee to see that you're open to a backup plan or you have
Yeah,
one. And
yeah,
so, like, there's a very delicate balance that you
yeah,
have
yeah,
to achieve between, like, I know what I want to do and this is how I'm going to get there, but then very specifically say, somehow craft a message that says, like, I also know that this might not work out, but I can go this other way if I need to.
yeah.
And so I feel like that's often a really hard balance to strike. And it's important that you get that right. And, having somebody like Sriram in your corner to help you is really important. Okay. So somebody else asked if they can rank M7 schools for someone looking to build a career in general management in B2B business, around the core critical business skills like commodities, energy, security, mining, etc. So,
Interesting. Well, career in general management already is very specific about which, like, you already listed so many critical businesses there. So I think it's going to be a function of, are you looking to rank the schools in terms of getting a job, or in terms of the courses they offer, or in terms of the alumni strength in those spaces? Harvard Business School has probably been, and Wharton, the most in general management across the decades. So if you're looking to sort of like get connected to, I don't know, some of people who run some of these businesses there from, I don't know, 50 years ago or something like that, then yeah, that's going to be your thing. But if you're looking for the schools that are focusing on innovation in those domains, that's MIT and Stanford. So this is a very generic question. It's very hard to answer it like in
right.
short, but I'll let you take it if you.
Oh, yeah. The only thing I would say is, like, this is almost any business school. So this is
Yeah.
where your research comes in to help define which schools should or shouldn't be on your list, to pick them and find where you're going to have that best like match for classes, career goals, but then also that personality of, who's going to be in the class with you.
Right.
Okay, so I think that we're at the end of all of our questions. One thing that, I'm trying to think about anything that we didn't discuss yet. Do you have anything that you feel like, oh man, I really wanted to share this today?
So a couple things based on the questions that come to mind are also about, no one's really asked about how many schools they need to apply to in each round, kind of a situation. And again, that's something I usually answer by saying that it's well, again, highly specific, but I have had clients who apply to, like, 10 schools in, across round one and round two. And that's not unheard of. And, if you have the ability and the bandwidth and the passion to actually do that, then I think you should definitely consider broadening it out as much as possible. The second thing I think was round one versus round two. No one's really, but maybe that's because that's not the thing here. But for any of the questions that came in from overrepresented candidates or overrepresented backgrounds, I definitely recommend round one a lot more than round two, unless you have a promotion coming up or like another major thing that's going to significantly improve your profile. Then I definitely recommend also getting ahead if you can. That's the main stuff that comes to mind. But otherwise, I think we have one other question actually. So
Yeah. So the good one, Vibe wants to know about an ideal timeline to follow and how much time does it take to put together a great application?
and you left it to me conveniently. All right. I have already started working with clients for round one a month and a half ago, even before the applications open. So I've had clients from sometimes who start like as early as that, but I've also worked with clients 2 weeks before the submission deadlines as well. Now, if you're somebody who's very good at story and who can take my advice. First of all, this depends upon whether you have a consultant helping you or not. Without a consultant, I spent 9 months on my MIT application. I got started like 9 months ago, did 73 drafts of my essay. I was OCD. I was like, I have to get into, this school. I only applied to 2 or 3 schools, I think. And so the more time you can give it, the more time your body and mind have to sleep over it. And then you have like the most interesting one. If you rush through it, then it'll look like it is rushed. If you have a consultant, if I have like with the clients right now with whom I have the advantage of time, I'm able to sort of really develop their story. We spend a few sessions brainstorming about, the different directions of their, potential future goals. And then I said, okay, please now go and talk to some of the industry experts in your field, double check if what I'm telling you or what we discussed makes sense. He was able to go and speak to people and came back and said, oh, you know what, I thought that direction is what I wanted to go, but yeah, you were right, that doesn't really gel from this, but this one actually makes more sense. Change the whole direction of his application because we have the liberty of time. And so now he's actually spending time researching schools, talking to more candidates, figuring out the best electives, taking the time to visit the schools and really put in all of that work that goes into a good application. Now, if you already have been doing some thinking, you are reasonably clear on your goals, you've done some research on the schools already, and you basically need help with just tying it all together, then yes, you can kind of like come to us like a month before or even 3 weeks before. And with all of those readily available ingredients, we can still help you refine and put that together. But that then also means you just have to have the time for it. And it's not like a busy phase at work and, you have all of that available. So long story short, I would say anywhere from 4 months to 3 weeks before the application is a reasonably ideal time frame. The more time you can give yourself, the better.
Yeah. And I would say so again, this is kind of like the shameless plug of ARINGO, but we usually work with clients on a full school basis. And with that package, it includes that strategy review, working with your consultant and additional reviews. So we usually, prefer 4 to 5 weeks at least for the first school and 3 to 4 weeks for each additional school. So building out your timeline accordingly. If you're planning to apply for fall 27 start, then we're kind of right at this time to start working together. Applications are going to be published in the next couple of weeks. They should all start to come out because Wharton's out, Columbia's out, and then hopefully some other things will start happening here soon. But yeah, so we'd love to help people with their applications. And in fact, if you were able to attend today, you do get a 15% off for our packages and our hourly assistance. And so I'll be sending out that information again with the recording from today. And this is what I wanted to say, Sriram. M7 is amazing, right? They're magnificent in themselves, but they're not always the only school people should consider. I would say that T15, T20, and even we didn't even broach the topic of European UK B schools. There are so many schools out there that you can find the school that fits you, I would say, because of what you're wanting to do and accomplish in your career goals, where you want to be located, and what type of experience you want to have. And like Sriram was talking about, you're going to hit the ground running with the hamster wheel. I love that. Or the treadmill. And it's going to start happening very quickly. Some of them, even before you actually get on campus, you're doing all the things. And so, if you don't feel very secure in that next step and you want a little bit of exploration, a 2-year program is going to be the best. But, a 1-year program, maybe not ideal for you. Or if you're just wanting to continue on and need the MBA to get to that next level, then a 1-year program can be amazing for you. And, if you want media and entertainment, maybe you do look at UCLA. So there's so many different facets to it. I just hope that people don't narrow their choices too much. And then the other thing that I would say is also don't count yourself out, right? I think we've helped clients many a times who thought, I'll never apply to an M7 school because I'm an overrepresented minority or not minority, but an overrepresented candidate. And I have a mediocre GMAT score and maybe I shouldn't apply. And we've seen them get in and with scholarships. So, it's this kind of double-edged sword here. don't count yourself out, but also don't limit yourself to only these 7 schools, in my mind.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely would like to add that at the end that the theme of this conversation has been M7. And yes, they definitely are everything that I spoke about. But we obviously work with people for the other ones too, for a variety of reasons, like Jen mentioned. And also the fact that many of those other ones are, starting to kind of improve their rankings and really start to kind of come up. And sometimes there is value in being in the exciting next upcoming school also, and we can talk about some of those. I'm sure we'll do like another call at some point, or
Yeah.
Jen might be open to someone on those subjects too. So yeah, I think there's a lot to, and I'll just like I'm currently also in like the film festival circuit, and there's 12,000 film festivals in the world, and like really having to navigate now from the other side yet again as to which ones are the right fit. Like some of them are prestigious, the Sundance and Venice and all of these, but then there's a whole other tier of them. And all of these same factors play out in any of these different arenas of life that you're going into. And I think the idea of like starting with who you are and like starting to find that beacon that talks to you is basically the secret sauce of this whole process. And whether you do it with our help or by yourself, or if you have someone, that essentially is the core of what we're getting at, if that makes sense.
Awesome. Well, thanks again, Sriram. It's been amazing, and I love talking with you. So thanks, everybody, for joining us, and I look forward to seeing you guys again on our coffee chats.
Thank you for having
Thanks.
me, and thanks for all the questions, guys. Lovely talking to everyone. Talking to you, Jen.
Bye.
Bye.